Well, it was sort of funny because around that time we started bumping into more and more North Vietnamese and more Viet Cong, mostly North Vietnamese, because that's when we didn't know it, but they were planning their big push through Tet. And but about that time, as that time came up, we knew what we were doing more pretty well, and what to do, how to act. So we thought that at Tet, the North Vietnamese normally took a break because that was like one of their national holidays, or their biggest one. So we were back at base camp, and they gave us the duty of, I can't remember what they called it, but we had the duty of being choppered to any place that was having a big battle. And there were no battles going on so far. We were choppered up to LZ, remember if it was 101 or Winchester. But anyway, they choppered us up there, and we spent the night in other people's bunkers, not with them, but we were the only ones in the bunker. And then early that morning before daylight, they choppered us on up close to Da Nang and close to the river, just south or just across the river, close to Da Nang. I was not up front at that time, and we just walked along pretty much in the dark, and I guess people were pretty scared because some Marines opened fire on us. Luckily, they didn't hit anybody, and we stopped and we let them know that we were Americans. And then we found out a little bit later that nobody had told the Marines that we were coming up there. So they had no idea that we were Americans until, we started hollering at them. And then that morning about daylight, we wound up in a pretty big graveyard, and we stayed there till it got good daylight. And there was a guy across this big rice paddy, I'd say, 200 yards, I guess, as well as I can remember. And he started shooting, sniping at us just every once in a while. And it made Captain Brennan kind of mad, and he said, if that guy shoots one more time, we're going to go get him. And he shot one more time. And Brennan put second and third platoon up on line, and we walked that way. We didn't walk in single file. We walked in a skirmish line, he called it. And he, luckily for me, he put our first platoon back behind that line about, I guess, 30 yards, maybe a little more than that. And we were walking up behind second and third platoon as we crossed that rice paddy. And we got, the second and third platoon got almost across the rice paddy, and they were coming up on a berm, a little built-up area of dirt that people used to cross the rice paddy so they wouldn't get muddy and all that stuff. But when second and third platoon got right up to the berm, a bunch of NVA stuck their guns and heads up where they could see them and started killing our people. And they killed a bunch of us, about 19, I think it was, that day. And of course, as soon as they opened up on us, we opened up on them. But we couldn't shoot as first platoon back in the rear, but bullets were cracking through all the time, and a bunch of them. And I'd never heard it before, but those bullets, I don't know if they were breaking the sound barrier or what, but a little bit ago when I said crack, that's what they did. They would make this loud cracking sound as they came through 2nd and 3rd platoon and through us. In fact, my squad leader at that time, Sergeant Shull, got shot through the calves of both legs just by an NVA accidentally hitting him way back where we were. He was shooting at 2nd and 3rd platoon, but it came through and hit Shull. And I think it was Baines and I carried Shull back to the graveyard and hid him out and some other people back at the graveyard. The tombstones made good protection. And 2nd and 3rd platoon were having hell. As I said, a bunch of them got killed. And people were crawling around in the rice paddy mud and trying to kill each other. And one of our sergeants, Sergeant Bulow, got in hand-to-hand combat with them. And I'm sure some of the other our guys got into hand-to-hand combat. And Bulow always said it was very close to him not getting killed. He couldn't shoot them fast enough, so he had to start fighting them hand to hand. And after I don't know all the stories, and there are some good ones, but after it was kind of slowing down a little bit, I remember some of us walked out through the rice paddy after it was over, trying to find our wounded and dead guys. And we were carrying them back to the graveyard, and we put the wounded in one little area in the middle of the graveyard, and we put the dead people in another little area in the center of the graveyard. And I also shot 2 or 3 NVA that I found alive and wounded out in the rice paddy. And sometimes I would follow up to them by following a blood trail. It'd be like a cleared area about that wide in the rice, and there would be blood down in the bottom of it, and you'd follow that up until they had either somebody had picked them up and left, or they were there. And if they were alive, you shot them. If they weren't alive, you didn't, of course. And then that night, I will never forget that, because we had a bunch of our guys kind of stacked up in the middle of the graveyard. And I wrote one time that their arms and legs were akimbo. And when a flare would go off that night, you could see arms and legs sticking up of our dead people. And we also, it started raining to really make things nice. And we put ponchos over the top of our dead people and to protect them from the rain. But choppers would come in from the Marines, who brought us M14 ammo instead of M16 ammo, because they did not know we were going to come in there that day. And the choppers would blow the ponchos off of our guys, and we would go put them back on them, but they just the choppers just kept blowing the ponchos off of. And that night, Don't know the entire story, but as I saw it, two of our guys went out to set up trip flares, hand grenades, and set up claymores to protect us during the night if we were attacked, which we were scared to death we would be, but luckily we didn't get attacked. I guess we'd hurt them bad enough, they just left. Anyway, he and TJ went out to set this stuff up, and a Marine chopper came over not to bring ammo, but was just flying by outside our perimeter, and a big flare went off about that time. And when the flare went off, TJ and this other guy got a little scared that people could see them because the flare was going off, and they started running back to our perimeter. Well, whether they had told the foxhole next to them that they were going out or whether they did not tell them, I don't know. But there was a guy sitting there on an M60 machine gun, and when Williams and this other guy, they started running back to our perimeter, they thought they might get shot at. The guy on the M60 thought they were attacking and opened up on them and killed Pamillo with a shot through the forehead. And I went with the medic and tried to help him, but he was gone. There was no way he was going to make it through that. My best friend Stading got killed. He and I and a guy named Carter, who was our close friend also, especially close friend, we walked up on this little hill, and they said, take a break, and I think we were eating lunch. And the three of us sat almost shoulder to shoulder up on this little berm with our feet down in kind of a ditch. And all of a sudden there was a really loud sound, and there was smoke and dirt flying in the air, and you couldn't see hardly anything. And I guess all of us fell down in that ditch at our feet. And Carter was always good at getting away from grenades and stuff like that. And he came crawling over Stading and the top of me and almost squished me and got away to a safer area. And when the smoke cleared, I saw that Stading had been wounded and he wasn't alert. And I went up and started trying to help him, and almost immediately a medic came down and started trying to help him, and he pulled his shirt open, and there was a little sucking chest wound in his chest, and he had two little holes over his left eye from shrapnel also. And I don't know which one killed him, but he was alive when we put him on the medevac, but he didn't make it to the doctor. And boy, that really hurt me. And that was my first Purple Heart.